Okay, so today we have Kelly Pheneger with us, joining us for our Tech Time vlog. And we also still have Dr. Manier and Judy Tucker and me, Dr. Tonya Sanders. And we're going to be talking about some stellar solar eclipse resources. Now, Kelly Pheneger is the Director of Education and Outreach for WBGU PBS, and she's going to share with us these exciting resources in regards to this anticipated solar eclipse that's coming in April. Kelly?
And I'm going to do a preference here. The book that she's going to be demonstrating to you, which is free, it truly is. It is the coolest solar eclipse resource I've seen. And I have looked at probably hundreds of resources for, so for elementary age kids or anybody that wants to learn more about it, is really worth looking at and downloading. So with that as an introduction.
Well, I so appreciate your kudos there, Roger. I want to give thanks to my colleague Laurel Kirshner, because it was really her idea to create this guidebook of sorts, and I'll be showing that in just a minute, because she was looking for resources that were both cross-curricular and local. And of course, it's really hard to find good local resources, and that's really our role, I think, in public television and in what you do at the Ed Tech, is we make things local for teachers. So hopefully we're doing that with this resource, and I'm just really excited to show you it. I want to back up a little bit and just say that about almost 2 years ago now, WBGU was asked by the Ohio Department of Education, now the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, to create a series of videos to help teachers, students, and families, and really just the whole community around education, understand how special this solar eclipse that's coming up is going to be on April 8th, because it's really something that's only going to happen probably once in your lifetime, unless you're a world traveler, because total solar eclipses do happen about once every 2 years somewhere around the world, if you have the means to get there, but it will probably only ever happen in your hometown, maybe once in your lifetime. I believe they say the next total solar eclipse is 2099. So we started out by developing a series of solar eclipse videos. I'm about to show you where you can find those. There are 7 of them. I'm going to be sharing my screen right now, so let me jump over to the solar eclipse page that we have. So if you would like to find these resources, what you need to do is search for, or put in your URL, wbgu.org/solar eclipse. And that will, what you'll see, first thing you'll see is the downloadable guide. I'll get back to that in just a second. But since I'm talking about the videos, you could see, if you scroll down a little bit, this is where it all started. So we have 7 videos that we've developed that are very short. They're around 2 to 3 minutes long, which is perfect for our younger students, but also really anybody that wants to learn about solar eclipses. So if you're a novice and you just have a lot of questions, even as an adult or an educator, this is a great place to start. So first, you'll see that we have a very short video about what's coming up, why the April 8th eclipse is exciting. I just talked about that, but they say it so much better and in a more concise way with lots of great visuals. We worked with professors at the BGSU Physics and Astronomy Department. We interviewed them, so we really have some top experts in the field of astronomy helping to guide us and explain what's going to be happening. We also have a how to view an eclipse safely video and how to make a pinhole viewer as well. So there's a couple of things there. They go through how to talk to students about why it's important to protect your eyes, and then what are some options if you don't have eclipse glasses, which I think is really great. So that's another resource you can share. And then I think this is more for families, really. This third video is community preparedness. So we interviewed the director of the Wood County Emergency Management Agency, and he goes into depth. Of course, it's another short video, but he does a really good job explaining why it's important to prepare ahead of time for the eclipse. And that's primarily just going to be because we're going to have a big population surge. And whenever you get a lot of extra people in your town, things happen, like maybe gas stations might run out of gas. Maybe your cell phone may not work. So it's just about planning ahead of time. And I think this very short video would be a really nice one for teachers to share with families, especially. Then we get into a few other videos here. What is a solar eclipse? So a nice explainer there. I think that's from Dr. Layden. He's, again, one of the professors at the astronomy department at BGSU. This says how to explain an eclipse to a kindergartner, but it's just really a brief, concise way to describe what an eclipse is. And just a nice video that wraps up a lot of points. We also have a video about what is an astronomer, and actually it's one of our most viewed videos. I think I've got a couple thousand views on it, which is pretty good for us. So I know people are really excited about careers in space, and we have Dr. Kate Dellenbush to talk about her experiences. And finally, a lot of students may know that there is something called the lunar eclipse, and there's a video explaining what that is all about too. So we have some nice videos. That's where we got started on it. And then we decided that it was important to give supplemental information to educators, to students, to families about what to expect the day of the event. So that's where the guide comes in handy. So right here, when you get to wbgu.org/solar eclipse, you can see that we have an image on the left. It says Sun, Moon, and Shadows. That's our guidebook. You could either click there, or you can click here to download a copy of the book. Feel free to use pages that maybe you find interesting for your students. Maybe you're going to do some learning in class. Maybe you'd like to download the whole book, make copies sent home with the students. I know we're working with a few school districts on supplying some book titles, but for those of you that have the means to provide copies for your students, I think this is a really helpful guide. A lot of questions are going to be answered for parents too as well when they have this. So let me share the actual guide with you so I can walk you through it a little bit. All right. How's that look? I just
Looks
asked you
really good.
in the call. Looks good. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is what the printable version looks like, and you can tell we were trying to be kind to printers. So instead of having an all black cover for the printable version, we have one that's more on the white and black side. So that we hope is helpful to you. So this is the first page. As you can see, it's a 40-page guide, including the front and back cover. If you are working with a digital copy of this guide, you can click directly on the QR codes, and that will take you to whatever website is being described right here. Is a link to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce Solar Eclipse Resources, another great collection there that's been curated. And then also Ohio Learns 360, some information about an after-school outreach program that we have, and then some happenings about BGSU because they were so kind to support the work we did, and they reviewed our guide to make sure that our content was accurate, especially as we got into taking some really complex concepts of astronomy and writing them so that they could be understood by probably a 3rd to 5th grader, and then even a younger child with some adult assistance as well. So we have
in there.
that.
And adults as well. You know, if you don't know much about solar eclipses, I found it really interesting.
I kind of want to watch the video about how to explain it to a kindergartner.
I guess it's kind of a play on, you remember the books for dummies, but we were kind of saying it in a kinder fashion of a more simplistic view. So absolutely, I think you're right, Tonya. It's a good one, all encompassing. And then here's our table of contents. You can see we have a number of activities. The way the book is laid out really is, you'll see that we have, for instance, we start out by talking about what a lunar eclipse is, and then we have some video links to the videos that we created that further explain that, and then we have some diagrams as well. And then on the page that's adjacent, there's always an activity to engage students. So this is a particular moon journal. This particular one is a moon journal that students can take home with them. Again, if you don't have the means to copy the whole book, this might be a good start. They can start looking at the night sky, thinking about what the moon looks like, because of course the moon is going to be an important piece of the eclipse. So just understanding the different phases of the moon, that's important as well. And then we get into different kinds of solar eclipses. I think we all remember just a few years ago that we had a partial solar eclipse. So it's just describing what the differences are here in an easy to understand way. And again, a good use of this book would be to make copies of it, send it home with students so they're really prepared, because a lot of schools are going to be out on that day. I think probably most of the schools in our Northwest Ohio district will be closed that day. And even though as teachers, you might not have them that day, I'm sure you would agree that it's really important to prepare students ahead of time, not only so they're safe, but so they really understand what's going on, so they can understand this once in a lifetime experience that they're about to partake in. And we're hoping for clear skies, aren't we, on this April 8th day? So cross your fingers for that. You will find that there are some activities that are more for fun and engagement. Like, for example, we have, a word search here, but we do have some of the words that students have already been introduced to in the first couple pages. So it's a bit of a review of that and something just to engage them again with that vocabulary. And then we're looking at, again, we've already talked about the solar and lunar eclipse and comparing those two things. So helping students use a graphic aid to understand the differences and the similarities between those two things. And then prompting students to draw what an eclipse looks like and getting them to be creative and thinking about what that might look like based on what they've already learned. And then this is really interesting. And as an adult, even like Roger mentioned, and Tonya, this really gives you some great knowledge. Like I really didn't know, when we were talking about sizes of how large is the sun compared to the earth and moon. I think I studied these things, way back maybe in elementary school. And to be honest, I haven't had a lot of astronomy since then, to be fair, maybe 7th grade or 8th grade or whatever, to talk about the difference between the basketball representing the sun, the earth as a pinhead, and the moon as a grain of salt. So just getting students' minds to think about that. And of course, we're starting to integrate some mathematics too with diameter and radius. And then real quickly going through some of the other things, talking about an activity, a simple one where kids can practice eclipsing each other or objects, and why they can see something as small as the moon eclipse something as large as the sun. So see how large of an object you can eclipse right now. And then just talking about one thing that I think is really interesting about this, and I think the title of our workbook speaks to this, is it's sun, moon, and shadows. So it's not just about the sun and the moon, but it's also the shadows that are cast. And one of the important things that we want students to think about is looking down, because when they look down, they're going to see a lot of really neat phenomenons related to shadows that day. They may see, if it's very clear, they may see shadows of the hairs on their arms. They may see some brilliant shadows and strangely shaped shadows from the trees around them. So this gives them some ideas on what they can look for and gives them a little activity there as well. We're getting into some literacy here. We give an example of an acrostic tale and encourage students to be creative, because we know that nature inspires literacy and creativity and creative writing. So we want to prompt that as well. And then getting into things like animal behaviors, things that you might not think about in an eclipse. What might you hear? Maybe would you hear, maybe not in April would you hear crickets, but what other things maybe you would hear? A hoot of an owl, perhaps, that thought it was nighttime. And just giving, again, some students some things to think about beyond just looking up. And then we have, of course, a reiteration of the eclipse safety. And we've got some great links, again, back over to our safe viewing videos, and a couple additional ones here as well that we have added. Some purely for fun. Like I said, there are some activities in here that really would be well suited even for our very youngest. I really like this feature of the book. We have the timeline to totality. So what do you start looking for? What are we going to see about an hour before? And this even is linked up to the images. So we're going to see the moon start to come across from the right. What are we looking for then? As it's approaching totality, what will we notice? right before totality, when is it safe to take off your glasses? We actually have that right here on this page with some very specific guidelines, because it is safe during the total eclipse when the moon is completely covering the sun to take the glasses off and observe. But of course, students are going to need some help with that. And we hope this guide helps answer parents' questions about when that's okay. And then, further explanation about what they can expect in all phases of the eclipse. Another one that's a lot of fun here, a little math, a little fun, some good parent or caregiver, parent or teacher, kiddo interaction here. I played this with my 11-year-old. He had a ball. Of course, his math skills are beyond this, but what a great interaction with a loved one or a caregiver. And something that you can do just purely for fun. We've got a word scramble. Again, more time with the vocabulary words. Something that we have that's really unique in our guide is the maps. So we have the map of the United States, and we encourage the children to employ their geography skills, adding a compass, coloring, the line of totality, so they have some familiarity with that. Looking at all the different states that are going to experience this eclipse. And then we have the Ohio map, and we encourage kids to find where they live and interact with that as well. And then even a chart on when the partial eclipses are going to begin for some of our major local cities and how long totality will last. So some simple math there. We kept the times more simplistic. So even though Bowling Green, for instance, is going to be just a little over 3 minutes, we just left the seconds on there just to make it something that, all ages could interact with. So you're going to have anywhere from 1 minute of totality all the way up to 4 in some areas. People have been asking me, if I go further south, will it be better? Well, you might get like an extra minute of totality, but it's not going to be a great deal of difference. So you'll have to decide on whether you're willing or not to maybe deal with some of the traffic and some other things that happen that day.
I would recommend staying close to home. Find a place with a great view, and yeah.
Yes, either stay close to home or plan to stay longer after you get to your destination. So plan some activities for afterwards, because everybody's going to be arriving at different times, but everyone will leave at the same time. I think in our emergency preparedness video, the director said they sent some of their staff down to Kentucky to observe the 2017 eclipse. And I think they said something like it took them maybe 5 hours to get there and some, 14 or 17 hours to get back home. So, that's the big difference, right? We've got some math, riddles, even a Mad Lib type style eclipse adventure that I worked on this with my 11-year-old, and we had lots of laughs over this, of course. And nice review of parts of speech too, right? With your adjectives and nouns. Then a little guided journal for students, as well as a crossword puzzle that kind of sums up what they've learned. And of course, we provide word banks, and we've got a glossary. So if you're teaching students about context clues and reading nonfiction, the glossary and the table of contents will be really helpful for you. And then you've got the answer keys in the back. And then finally, we have all of the QR codes. So if you've got a printed copy, you can scan that QR code, or if you're looking at the digital, you can click on these as well for access to all the videos and resources that were mentioned throughout the book. And of course, we threw in our bibliography because we want to make sure that you know where we're getting our resources. Let me just briefly show you what else is on this solar eclipse resource page. So when you go to it, you'll kind of know. Not only do we have, again, a link to the download here, but we've got a solar eclipse model craft that you can print and students can cut out. They just need a fastener or a brad, and it's a nice demonstration of what an eclipse looks like. We have another video resource here. We have PBS learning media resources that Ohio has developed specifically. One of our sister stations in upstate New York developed a nice collection of PBS resources as well. Again, more solar eclipse resources from PBS Learning Media. And I'm going to touch base with the NWOET team because I know they have a couple of great suggestions that I'm going to be adding to this page so that by the time you watch this video, or when you're watching this video, I'll have the screen updated for you, so you'll be able to find that as well. Now, there is a past event that we had that I have a flyer up here for, but I'm going to list some other events that are taking place in your area. And another final note is that this Ohio Department of Tourism Eclipse Activity Database is really helpful. If you're looking for, well, where should I go to watch the eclipse? It'll give you a map. You can click on your county. It will tell you what locations are open. A lot of parks are open for viewing that day. And it just gives you some supplementary information about what's happening in that particular area. So I highly recommend that as well. And I just wanted, to thank you so much for letting me come on here. I wanted to tell everybody, all of your teachers, anybody that's watching, that we do have these resources that are free to you. And we're just really thankful for the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce's support, because without their funding support, we would not have been able to develop these resources and bring them to you. So we so appreciate that. And as always, appreciate our partnership with NWOET. So thank you.
So all the resources that you have witnessed today will be on our resource page on the link that you see on the screen right now. And any other additional resources that we can share with you in regards to the solar eclipse that will help you out with your students or your understanding of what's going to happen here on April 8th. And we'll all meet back here in 2099 to discuss the resources then for that eclipse.
All right.
Again, thank you, Kelly, for joining us. It's always a pleasure working with you. And like you said, the partnership between WBGU PBS and NWOET is one that we value. So we really appreciate your input and your help in conducting this vlog today. So thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week for another intriguing episode on the integration of technology. Thank you.